Good morning, my brothers and sisters, and all my friends. This morning we are going to talk about part 9th of our series, India as the Leader of 21st Century. And this morning we are going to talk about the Indian banker. We want the Indian banker as the global banker. And we also recognize and reaffirm that somehow just talking about the idealism or just talking about the dream of creating heaven on earth and transforming the humanity into divine being and the family of God, all the talk can end up into just air. And it won't reach anywhere till we perform the divination yajna of money, the economic system. Today, the economic system, what we are following all over the planet, is based on scarcity, the economics of scarcity. And this economics of scarcity operates under the law of demand and supply. Now, as we know, that as we have the population, the increase of the population, or the quantity, the number of the human beings on earth, we could calculate how much food they need, how much clothes they will need, what the shelter will cost. And it is all available database. So few smart people could design a system to control the supply. When you control the supply, the demand is always there. There's a perpetual demand. And this perpetual demand will fetch greater profits to the people who control the supply line. So we could not develop and evolve the economic system for the humanity and avoid the exploitation of the masses. And because of this faulty system of economics of scarcity based on demand and supply, and controlling the supply line, demand could be raised, and that could end up into terrible exploitation of the masses, who are at the mercy of those operators, those controllers of the supply line. The great example of this supply line is that there are countries in the developed world who produce so much food. And many times they have the bumper crops of fruits and grain. But those nations prefer to dump that in the sea than to give to the humanity, or let it come to the market. Why it happens so? Because they are controlling the supply line to keep the demand at a certain level for any pretext, any drama, any manipulation. So this morning we are going to talk about the economics of abundance, and we are going to align the economic activity with the nature. As we know, the nature doesn't create scarcity. It's only in some very, very unavoidable circumstances, natural disasters like famine. Otherwise, in normal conditions of environment, the nature never creates scarcity, but nature creates abundance. And from one grain, nature creates thousands and thousands of grains. So there is no scarcity, by the way. And to practice the economics of scarcity is ill-conceived, is manipulated, and it is based on sadistic behavior and greed and gluttony of very few people. How could we do that? We have to allow the participation of the base of the pyramid of the humanity to create wealth. We have to include more and more people in the wealth creation cycle. And how could we do that? We can do that through amending or adjusting or correcting the interest rates, the banking interest rates on the savings account. We have to somehow create an ecosystem of more and more all-inclusive participation of the base of the pyramid, and more human beings must participate into the wealth creation. And how could we do that? We could motivate them through increasing the interest rates on their savings account. Let me remind you what is happening in the developed world. My dear friends, the whole humanity in the developed world is operating under slavery, economic slavery. And why I say that they are economic slaves? Because on their savings they get zero interest. They get very little, and sometimes even the banks charge you to maintain their accounts. So it's minus. So they get no appreciation for saving. Why? Because the market wants them to be under the perpetual debt. They have to consume more and more because it's useless to put the money in the bank, because you have to pay to keep the money in the bank, in your savings account. So then they say, well, what good it is? Let me at least enjoy my life till there is sunshine. So the whole system is designed in such a way that the people live under the economic slavery in the developed world. And 99% of the humanity is living under the slavery. And if they don't work, yes, of course, there is a social security, but that's inhuman. You have to wait from morning till evening, and then in the evening they give you the check for social security. And believe me, my brothers and sisters, that's not human. This is just a drama. So keeping the whole humanity under the slavery, economic slavery, is a faulty economic system. So what we need to do, we need to increase the rate of interest on the savings account to motivate people to save more. And that way, we are going to increase the liquidity of the banks. So the banks are not dependent on few people the operators, global operators. So the banks will have the base. They will have more liquidity because of those savings. And we could design the interest rates in such a way that the money must become double. It must have the appreciation 100% in 7 years. In order to check the vegetative growth of the capital, because the vegetative growth of the capital is encouraging and fueling the fire of speculative economics, where there are some people who operate in the stock markets and they create the artificial cycles of bust and boom, and then they harvest the whole humanity. Why? Because they have trillions of dollars with them. So they could play the game. Can you imagine a system which harvests people, their savings, and they are doomed forever just because some greedy operator is doing this? So we are facing this big problem of speculative economics, and we have to design in such a way that there are higher rates for saving accounts. And how could we do it internationally? And what is the role of India? The role of the Indian banker is to negotiate the joint venture deals with the banks in developed world. And our banks and the banks in the West, in the developed world, can sign the memorandum of understanding and make a bridge of East and West banking bridge. So the money can flow in the Indian banking system, and the Indian banking system could appreciate and give that kind of interest to the banks in the West. And we could afford to do that. And if we could pay them 3%, they will be very happy on their money which is transferred through this banking channel. So our banks could give, and our banks will have lots of money to advance to the entrepreneurs, to the majority of the base of the pyramid of the humanity, and all inclusive development. So creating the banking bridge between East and West, we could take away and wean away the humanity from forced consumerism, controlled supply lines, the economics of scarcity. And there is a possibility that we can create an ecosystem where everybody could participate in the wealth creation, can have access to the capital for their economic activities. So the real problem lies with the economic system. This is faulty. This is being controlled by few people. And today, can you imagine that you don't get any money on your savings account? Any appreciation on your saving accounts in the banks? And that is what is happening even in India. And now the interest rates on the savings account is so down, and the banks are charging even to maintain the accounts in India, and we are encouraging the speculative economics through the stock market where there are few people with the billions and billions of rupees and trillions of rupees harvesting the humanity, harvesting the investors in the stock market. My dear friends, my brothers and sisters, we can do that. We have the potential and we have the wisdom resources to create an ecosystem of peace and progress and prosperity of one and all through the divination of the money. Because money is a social asset. It's a wrong idea that somebody could be the owner of the money. It is a wrong idea because no one person can create wealth. You need the social cooperation. You need another person to exchange the services, sell the goods, to create money. So we could say spade is a spade. We can follow the truth. And why we have to go around and around and around in the falsehood of economics of scarcity? So we need to build the bridge of East and West banking bridge and adjust the savings rates, interest rates, in such a way the money must grow 100% within 7 years. This is natural cycle of the economics, of the nature. But it can fluctuate as the need is between 9 on the higher side and the 5 on the lower side to maintain the balance. And other than this, we are creating the cycle of speculative economics, and we are allowing the vegetative growth of the capital. Thank you very much and have a very, very beautiful day, my dear friends and my brothers and sisters.